150,000 tons of rock, approximately 500,000 motorcycles, and 1 million people have in common. Well, I'm going to tell you. Today I'm going to tell you about my trip to South Dakota. I've always wanted to visit Mount Rushmore in Sturgis, and hopefully my experience will enlighten anyone that would like to visit there. I'm going to tell you about our trip to Deadwood, South Dakota, Mount Rushmore, and Sturgis, South Dakota. First, we're going to go to Deadwood. Deadwood is it's a small little town of approximately 1,300 people. It was built during the Black Hills Gold Rush. It was a lawless town, and it had a lot of brothels and what have you like that. It's most notable for the murder of Wild Bill Hickok at the No. 10 Saloon, and his murderer, Jack McCall, was prosecuted twice, even though there was a double jeopardy ruling by the Supreme Court. They ruled that Deadwood was a lawless town, so an illegal town, so they found him guilty and hanged him. Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane are both buried in Mount Moriah Cemetery in Deadwood. That's the saloon. Whoops. Can you go back one? Okay. Okay. The original town was a gold mining town, and when the culture changed to deep mining, they lost their rough and rowdy reputation, and it became a very prosperous town. There was a smallpox epidemic that almost wiped the town out, and then there was a major fire in 1959 that almost destroyed the town again. 1961, it was declared a historical landmark. In 1964, Interstate 90 bypassed the town, and it made it kind of not so prosperous. In 1980, there was a raid on all the brothels, and they were all shut down. And in 1987, there was a major fire that destroyed the historic Syndicate building, and because of that fire, Deadwood became an experiment for gambling to see if it could be legalized and become prosperous. And they were the first to legalize gambling and for revenue, and it brought back a new life and new revenue to the town. Now that you've heard about Deadwood, second we're going to visit Mount Rushmore. I think I had this. Sorry. Okay. It was sculpted by Gutzon Borglum and his son Lincoln. It features 4 presidents: George Washington, Theodore Roosevelt, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln. The construction was started in 1927, and the faces were completed in 1939. Each was to be the head to the waist, but because funding ran out, that was not completed, and construction was ended in 1941. There was approximately 450,000 tons of gravel that was removed from the face of the mountain. This is what it looked like before. This is the example sculpture that they started out with. And during construction, they were having problems with power on Mondays. They couldn't figure out why their electricity they were getting no power. So they did some research, and they found that Monday was laundry day in Keystone, and all of the women had electric washers. So they commissioned a gasoline generator, and it's there on site for you to look at. It's in glass, so you can't probably really tell. They didn't have any more problems after that. And behind the mountain in the canyon, there's this room. It's a vault. It's 70 feet into the mountain, and it's got 16 porcelain enameled panels that contain the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the biographies of all the presidents, and Borglum, and the history of the United States. And this was installed in 1998. The reason these presidents were selected to be on this mountain President Coolidge decided that, along with Washington, that there needed to be 2 Republicans and a Democrat to be portrayed. And they were selected because of their role in preserving the Republic and expanding its territory. And no, the back doesn't really look like that. Okay, now we visited Mount Rushmore. We're gonna go on to Sturgis. Sturgis is a really awesome little town. It's known for its motorcycle rally every year. It started in 1938, and it was originally called the Black Hills Classic, and it was started with 9 motorcycles, and the participants were in a small audience, and the focus was racing and stunts. And it's held every year, except with the exception of 1942, when there was a gasoline shortage during World War II. Population is normally 6,600. During a rally, there's about 1 million people.
Wow.
And it brings about $800,000 annually to the revenue. And why we went there was because my husband is going this summer on his motorcycle. That's what it looks like. And these are some of the places. That's the Killer Bee. He'll be riding the Killer Bee. And he was planning his route and looking at places of interest on the way. In conclusion, we visited Deadwood, Mount Rushmore, and Sturgis. I hope fulfilling my dream to visit Mount Rushmore was a great adventure. Visiting Deadwood. Really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.